Welcome to Artistic Adventures. We're up to episode 8, making Baby Yoda, and we're getting into the real meat of this project by casting the silicone. We're going to start with the ears, and I'm going to put some wire into the ears to help keep them staying straight out and attaching them to the head. There's a lot of weight to the silicone, so having something that big hanging off the head, I don't want to just attach it with more silicone. So hopefully this wire is going to help. And we'll attach it up at the top part of the ear so that it's having the weight of the ear hang from it as opposed to it being at the bottom of the ear. So I'm cutting two pieces that are probably way too long, but that's okay. We can always, shorten them later. And I'm just going to use the dragon skin to fill the ears. I don't want to deal with getting the gallon containers of the other silicone out for this. So I'm just going to use the dragon skin. It's all the platinum silicone, so it'll all go together. It's fine. And one thing I will say, after I did this, I would take the wire and make a little loop at the bottom so that it's not just the straight wire at the very end so that it won't poke through the end of the ear. I did that on the second one of these that I made, and it worked a whole lot better. So you just take pliers and bend a loop in the end, and then it's less likely to poke through than just having the straight one. I wasn't sure how this would work. I'm going to go ahead and coat it with some of this dragon skin, and I've colored the silicone a green color that is going to sort of match the body. So hopefully it's not going to show through the ear. I don't really know how translucent it's going to look when I put the silicone in the ear. So I'm using that Thivex to thicken up some of this because it was really not sticking to the wire very well. And that helped a lot so that I could get a little bit thicker coating on the wire. I want to make sure that the wire is not like right against the ear casting because I don't want it to show, and I also want it to be a little bit cushioned. So I'm putting a little bit thicker coat of that silicone thickened with the Thivex. I can't talk this morning. So that I can get a thicker coat on there. And then I'll just set those over here to dry. And then when they're dry, we're going to go ahead and fill the ears up. Now, I will tell you that another mistake I made is I thought I could just do this mother mold with the back to hold them straight up. But actually, what happened is the silicone that I filled it with made it pooch out, so the ear was not as thin as I wanted it to be. But it worked, so, it ended up okay, but I'm trying to save on, buying extra of that freeform air to make the mother mold, and sometimes when you try to save, it doesn't work. So I was just going to trim some of this off because I wanted to make sure that it goes down in there smoothly and doesn't get caught up on anything. I don't know that that's necessary, but I did it anyway. So I've got a good coating of the silicone on the wire, and now I'm going to use this Man 200 mold release. This is apparently works about the best of any kind of mold release, so I've been told. So, and it's also sold by the same people, Smooth On, that sell all these different silicone products. So I guess it's going to be good. They know their products. So anyway, I'm spraying that down in there and then kind of squishing it around. It's kind of an odd product. It doesn't really automatically distribute, so you do want to kind of make sure that you squish it around and move it around in there. The other thing is, honestly, do this outside. I don't know what I'm thinking. I did this first Baby Yoda and sprayed it inside because I'm like so anxious to get it all done, and I'm so excited, to see Baby Yoda and get him completed. So I'm just doing everything inside, but that stuff really does have a pretty loud smell and probably not very good to do inside. So the first thing I'm going to do is I want to mix up some color that I'm going to use for the ears and for the body so that it's consistent. And the colors that I'm using are green, yellow, and brown. And I want to get a green that's not just like a bright emerald green, that's a little bit more muted, a little bit more of a mossy color, I guess is the right word. So that's the reason I'm adding some of these other colors together. This is the it's called, I don't know, I can't remember if I showed you this. I think I did, but it's called Silk Pig. I'm sorry. So these colors work with the Psycho paint that I'm going to use to color the body, but they work with any of the platinum silicones. So, anything that you use, like the dragon skin or the EcoFlex that I'm going to use for the body, will work fine with these colors to tint it. So the reason I want to have this mixed up in advance is I want to make sure that what I put in the ears matches the body. So when I attach them, it looks like, it was pretty much cast together, but or molded together. I don't know, cast is not probably the right word, but to me, I guess cast reminds me of metal more. But anyway, I wanted to get this color mixed up so that I have the same color for the ears and the body. So when I get through with the ears, I'm going to do the body, and we'll use the same pigment for that. Now, it looks really dark in there, but depending on how much of it you use with silicone, depends on how dark a color it will be in the actual product. So I don't want it to be super, super dark because I am going to color the body some after this. I want it to look more dimensional and not just like a flat one color. So for that reason, I'm going to have sort of a medium, not really super light, but not dark color for the body and the ears. So just start with a small amount, color it, see what you get, and then you can always add more. So I'm just adding, as you can see, just a very tiny bit on the tip of that wooden spatula. And then I'm going to mix it up. And I like that color. I think that, to me, reminds me of the Baby Yoda. So I really like it to be a little bit lighter than I want him to end up being, because I am going to put paint on top of this. And that's going to darken it and hopefully give it a little bit more of a lifelike look, as much as an imaginary character can be lifelike. So the next step is I want to coat the wires that I've already put some silicone on and let it dry, just to make sure that it's fully covered, so there's no gaps or air pockets around it when I pour the silicone in. So just dripping that on there really good. Now we're going to respray the ears. Again, do this outside or with a respirator, and then leave your home for 2 or 3 hours. I don't know why I did that. That's crazy. Anyway, so it wasn't really too bad on the ears because I wasn't spraying that much, but when I sprayed the baby's body, I really do need to do that outside. So I put the wire into the ear, into that top part, and then I'm going to pour this remaining silicone into the ear. So the other thing I learned was I cut these ears to exactly match the shape of the head. And I should have had a lip that extended beyond that, so that when I poured it, it would be able to fill up completely, because as you see, it's sort of a smile, sort of a half, not really half moon totally, but just it's a curve there. And of course, the silicone can only rise to the top of the lowest point without spilling over. So I wasn't really able to completely fill up the ear. I had to go back later and fill up the ear with thickened silicone to get the 2 edges on either side. And of course I spilled some here because I don't know, I'm experimenting. It's an adventure. But I was kind of squishing it around just to make sure I got it in all the little crevices. And that part worked really well. But I've noticed already that it's starting to sink down into the middle of the ear and pooch out. And this is where having a mother mold that went on top as well as the bottom would have solved that issue. It would have been sandwiched between those, so the silicone, would not be allowed to do that. But so there's 3 mistakes, or not mistakes, but learning opportunities here. Put a little round ball at the end of the wire so it doesn't poke through the end of the ear. Have a lip on the top of the ear so that you can cut it off after you mold it. Don't make it the exact shape of the ear. And then have a mother mold that goes on both the front and the back. All right, so now that you know how to do it the right way, see, I'm trying all kinds of things here. Like I was thinking, oh, I could maybe prop something against it to push it up, but it just keeps getting bulgy there in the middle. And finally, I just let it go, and it actually ended up okay. It wasn't really that bad. All right. Now, the next step is to spray the silicone release agent into the body of the envelope mold. And like I said, do this outside with a mask preferably. I'm really trying to get it down into the toes because these are going to be the hardest thing to release because they're small, and silicone does stick to silicone. So it's the only thing it sticks to. So you really do need this release agent, and you really do need to spray it very, very thoroughly to make sure that you get it in there. And also, like I said, it's not like you spray that in and it sort of is liquidy and then drips down into the toes. If I did this again, what I did was actually I took a Q-tip and like ran it down into the toes with that product on it to really make sure I had it down in the toes. Because as you'll see later, I had a really hard time getting the toes out of this mold. And, there's solutions to that, and, we'll talk about that as we go. But just saying, spray, 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 work it down in there. Use a Q-tip or whatever you can, paintbrush to move the product down in. It gets really cold too when you spray it. That's the other thing. So it's almost like you spray it, it gets cold, and it sort of stays where you spray it. I was kind of thinking it's going to be more like hairspray or something like that you spray and then it can kind of run if you keep spraying, but it kind of doesn't really do that. So you just have to spray it, and don't worry about getting it on the locking mechanism on the seam down the back. You really do kind of want to get a little bit of it on there so you'll be able to get the baby out once you've molded it. You want to be able to, pull that seam apart. So having a little bit on there is actually a good thing. So same things with the hands. You want to spray and then work the release agent down into the fingers as much as you can. Rub it with your hands on the inside. Do everything you can to get the release agent into those smaller crevices. Like the navel that's a little bit, pushed out and has little crevices in it, the eyes and the nose, all those areas that are finely detailed, work it in with your fingers as well as just spraying it. You cannot spray too much, I don't think, really, honestly. You also want to spray up at the top where the pour spout is and make sure you get that. Sometimes I tend to forget that area. I don't know why, and then I'm trying to pull the mold off of it, and that part's stuck. I can't get it off. So anyway, we got that pretty well sprayed, and I've become asphyxiated with the spray. But I was managed to continue. So now we're just going to mix up some clear dragon skin, just a little bit, to paint onto that seal. So we're pouring equal parts of the A and B, and this is still the fast curing. And this is what I'm going to use to put into the seam. It doesn't have to be colored because, hopefully you're not going to see it, although it's really hard to get the seam so complete that you don't. So some of it may drip down onto the body, but that's okay because it's clear. And also you can snip off little pieces. You don't have to worry about that. There's always ways to fix things that you don't do right, as I learn every day. All right, so we're painting both sides with a thin coat of this clear dragon skin. You're making sure to get in all the creases of the locking seam. And then we're going to put it together, let it cure and lock, and then we'll be able to pour silicone into this mold and not have it come apart. All right, so just make sure you get into all the crevices and you get a good thin coat. You don't want to slob it on, because then it's going to come through into the inside of the mold. And whatever's on the inside of the mold, that's what your finished product is going to look like. So you can see it looks, it closes up really nice like this. You can hardly see the seam. Just make sure you're nice and even all the way over. I would suggest that you let that dry just a little bit, just to let it sort of set before you start putting another coat on the top. Uh, that seems to help keep it together instead of, immediately putting this coat on like I did here. I'm telling you all the secrets so you don't have to make these mistakes. Not that it's a mistake, it's just I'm learning things that help and work better. And you really do have to have this thickened seam. If you don't have a thickened seam like this, where you have about maybe an inch or almost an inch of material, it really is difficult to get it to lock together without having gaps in it because it's not strong enough. It just won't hold together. So make sure you do have a nice thick area running down the back there where you're going to make your seam. It's going to make your life a whole lot easier. Trust me. So I'm putting just a coat of this clear over the top of the seam, and that'll just hopefully pull off once we are ready to open them back up. But we're getting them ready now to pour the silicone in. I'm still trying to push those ears in, but they're not having it. All right, this machine, don't be afraid, don't be scared. This is a degasser. It looks kind of complicated, but it's not. All it does is suck the air out of that metal chamber. And we've got our baby Yoda in the mother mold that I made. And this is, I should have made a top for him too, but I'm using these strips of fabric to hold him into this, but not tied very tightly, because if you tie it tightly, it's going to indent into the mold and make it not the shape that you want. So I just lightly did that just to hold him in there, and he's slightly tilted back, as you can see. Not enough that I can't get all the product in him all the way up to the head, but slightly, just, so that he'll stand up in this box. And you just want to make sure that when you put him in the box that his toes and all those pieces are not pushed up against the side. You want them to be able to fully mold. All right, so I'm mixing up quite a bit of the, this is EcoFlex 30. It's a little bit, it's soft, but it's there's a softer one, EcoFlex 20. These are all smooth on products, and very nice platinum silicone products. Very nice. So I'm mixing up a pretty good batch of this, and then I'm going to use that green color that I mixed up earlier and put in the ears to tint it. So you've got a pretty good amount of time to work with this product, so you don't have to rush like you do with the dragon skin. So we're going to mix it up. We're going to put it in the degasser, and that's important because it pulls the bubbles out, and you don't want to have bubbles in your final product. Now, of course, you're going to probably put more bubbles back in as you pour it into the mold, but every little bit that you can get out is important. So you just want to stir this really, really good, not just to get the color in, but to get the two parts mixed together. And if you have a longer stir stick, it really helps. I had longer stir sticks and lost them. I don't know. They're somewhere in this room. It's a crazy room that's got too much stuff in it. All right, so you take the top off, and that lid has just got I guess it's probably silicone rim around it. You turn on this, and it's got two valves on the top where the dial is. I'm just turning on the little motor at the back here. But you turn off one of the valves that vents to the outside so that the outside is cut off, and you open the one to the machine, and that allows the machine to suck the air out of the chamber, and it pulls that lid down and sort of seals it to the metal container because of the suction. Don't worry about that smoke. That's normal. It's not going to blow up. Everything's fine. Don't worry. All right, and you can look down through the clear glass top and see the bubbles coming up out of the product. And you can see it rising up in the machine. So as soon as you see it get almost to the top, you want to turn the machine off, and then you want to close off the valve going to the machine so that the air inside the metal container is still at a pressure level of being sucked out. And you just sort of let it bubble and bubble and bubble until it gets smooth on top. And the little dial that you see on the top there, it's over to the left. You can't really see it probably, but that's the high pressure on the inside. And once you get all the bubbles out, then you do the valve on the left side, which opens it up to the outside air and lets the outside air back in to allow the pressure back in, and you'll see the dial go back over to the right. Once it does, you'll kind of hear a pop and the lid will disengage from the suction, and your product is ready to pour. So we've got all the bubbles out of it, and then you're just going to pour it straight in. This is not going to be enough to completely fill the mold. I knew that, but you don't want to fill it all the way up to the top, or you're not going to be able to use it in the degasser because it does rise up as you're degassing it. Degassers are not that expensive. They're about $150 on Amazon, and they really do help you get a nice mold. So now you just want to take your baby and you want to squish the fingers, squish the toes, make sure you're getting all the air pockets out. Anything where the areas are higher, like you just have to think about where gravity is and, where the silicone might not easily flow into. One thing you want to look at is the shoulders. You definitely want to do that because the shoulders stick up above the level of the arm, and there's a tendency for the silicone not to mold, go into that area. The other thing I didn't do on this one was those little bumps on the top of his head. I didn't make sure that those were filled, so I had to fill those afterwards. But the next one that I molded, I did, so it worked out, much better. So I learned. I'm better than the rats. I can learn and amaze. All right, so he's set for 4 hours after we poured him. I did 2 containers of the silicone, basically. And after 4 hours, he's completely firm. And we're going to start opening up that back seam and see if we can get him out of there. It's like a birth. It's like he's coming out of the womb. So you just got to get that seam kind of started. Sometimes you have to use your X-Acto knife to help it along a little bit. Just don't, ruin your locking mechanism because, the whole purpose of doing this is that you want to be able to make more than one of these creations and not have to, remold the same thing over and over again. But as you can see, it comes apart pretty good. And there are some sticky parts down that, where the silicone either from the body went up into the crack or from the crack went down to the body. And those you can snip off. So don't worry about that. It's all good. There's his little head. Yay! With his little crown. We're going to cut that spout off and we'll fix that. But yeah, it looks good. Other than, like I said, the little lumps on top of his head. There were some bubbles there, but I was able to fill those in. We'll see that later as we finish this project. And now we're going to speed this up because this is just horrendous, really horrendous. Trying to get the arms, the fingers, and the feet out of the mold. So I just kind of like keep rolling them and squishing them. You run your finger down in there. But you all know I have really severe arthritis. I've already had 2 operations on my hands and, of course, had my knees replaced. So anything with my hands is not always easy for me. I do know that you're able to cut a slit in the mold there, even if you want to use it again, because you can always put some silicone to seal up the cut. I was trying really hard not to because once you cut it and you have to seal it, you're going to risk having a line on your product after you recast it because you've cut it and it's just there's no way you can get it completely smooth. So you can see me really struggling with this. I speeded it up because it just took forever, and I'm pushing my finger down in there, and at one point I was like, I'm going to cut it. I get out my X-Acto and I'm like, no, I can't cut it. And so I just keep going, and I think I stuck a paintbrush down in there. Oh gosh, this was really horrible. And if you have stronger fingers than me, maybe you can do it. So at this point you can see I've kind of got 2 arms, a foot. Yeah, I got the 2 arms out and 1 foot out. But that last foot really just wouldn't do it. And I think it was really mostly that one toenail. It was like really long, or actually I think it was 2 toenails. So here's like, I'm just get to the point where I think I'm gonna, have to cut it, and I'm sticking, my fingers, I'm sticking paintbrushes, everything I can down in there to try to separate the toe from the, and And also I'm pushing it right there. I'm trying to push the foot up so I can like invert the envelope and get the toe out. But the thing is, when you've got 9 layers or 6 layers, I think I had, well, that's maybe 9 layers of the dragon skin, it's pretty thick. It's really kind of hard to get it to invert. I mean, it would be great if you could just pull it and, it would just pull out, and then all you had to do was, push the mold back in, but it's not happening. This foot is so stuck. And you don't want to pull so hard that you pull the foot off. So I've kind of got it to where I just know I can't do it. So I'm cutting the dragon skin envelope mold at the bottom of the foot. Now, like I said, I have remolded this again since I did all of this project, and I was able to close that up just by putting some silicone over it, and it worked fine. It was okay. So, if you get to this point and you've tried it, you can't always cut it. It's not the best thing to do, but, when you're faced with not being able to get the foot out at all, you kind of have to do it. So that was, even, cutting it didn't make it immediately come out. I was still forced to really work with that toe, especially that one toe that had the long toenail. But I finally got it out. Oh, there he is, finally. Finally, after all that work. There's our baby Yoda. Oh, he's so cute. And squishy. Like a real baby. Just like I think he would look. Yeah. So, we've got a few issues that we're going to have to work on. Some of the toenails had bubbles in them. But these are all things you can fix. You can fill those in. And like I said, we're going to put some paint on top of them. And that's going to help to cover up maybe some of these issues. But I think, success as far as the molding process and everything, getting them out, I think it worked great. So I hope you enjoyed this part. And on the next one, we're going to start putting some color to him, making him look more real, get his ears on him, make him a real baby Yoda. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss a thing.